Welcome to LABTECH's video tutorial for the Ultra Micro multi-layer churro line run with 3 extruder units. In this video demonstration, we will show the standard procedures for starting up the line, setting up the optimized parameters of the line, and finally shutting down the line. For this demonstration, we will be running the line with LDPE and PP polymers to make a 3-layer symmetrical ABA film, with LDPE as layers A and C and PP as layer B. For this purpose, extruders A and C will be loaded with LDPE resins, while extruder B will be loaded with PP resins. Before powering up the machine, it is important to first make sure of the 2 following things: A. Water level in the water tank, and B. Power supply requirement of the machine. Water is used to cool down the heated parts of the line, so it is very important to make sure that there is enough water in the water tank before running the line. You can check the current level of the water inside the tank by inspecting the sight glass at the back of the machine, as shown here. For standard operation, fill the tank with water to up to the 70% to 80% tank capacity level. Before supplying power to the machine, first check the line's power supply requirement by inspecting its nameplate as shown here. You can also check this on the electrical circuit diagrams provided with your user manual. In this demonstration, a 3-phase 400-volt power supply is required. After determining the power supply requirement, we can now connect the machine's power cable to the proper power supply terminal, which matches the requirement as shown here. To check if the power supply is properly connected, you can check the phase monitoring relay inside the electrical cabinet. Here is the phase monitoring relay. If power is properly connected, both the green and orange light indicators should normally light up as shown here. If the orange light flashes or blinks, then power is not properly connected, or the voltage applied is wrong and may be way over or under the required voltage. Now we can turn on the door mount main power switch by turning it to the 90-degree position. At this point, the touchscreen panel will start up and display the main home screen. Finally, press the power on button to supply power to the various parts of the line. Before proceeding, please make sure that you have read about the control panel description in the user manual. The following steps requires you to know about setting the various temperatures of the heated parts in the line, as well as running and stopping the extruder units. After a successful startup, it is now time to start the preheating of the extruders, flat die, and the water supply. While still on the home screen, select the extruder setpoint temperature box at the right side of the screen and input the working temperatures for each extruder. For extruder B, which runs with PP, we will use 220 degrees Celsius for the working temperature. Since extruders A and C is run with LDPE, the temperatures are both set to 170 degrees Celsius. We have also set the feed block and flat die temperatures to 205 degrees Celsius. After setting temperatures, tap the heater icon here to turn on heating. As you can see, the extruder and die symbols will flash red to indicate that heating is active. Next, we have to tap on the water pump icon to enable water circulation to the roll stack. You can also set the desired water temperature by selecting the set point box. For this demo, we will set this to 50 degrees Celsius. Once all preheating temperatures are set, do not start the extruder motor drives right away at this point. You'll have to wait for the actual temperature to reach set point temperatures and stabilize. Now here, the target temperatures have almost reached the set point temperatures. Now should be a good time to clean the flat die to remove polymer residues that may have already degraded after a previous running of the line. Here are some cleaning tools you will need for cleaning the flat die. Only use soft copper or bronze cleaning tools. Here we have a scraper made of soft copper. Here's a brush made of soft brass. Over here we have silicone wax, which we can apply for the final cleaning of the die. Make sure you're wearing heat-resistant gloves during the entire operation. To start the die cleaning, use a scraper to scrape out the degraded melt inside the die lips. You can then use the brush to remove any melt residues around the die. You can also apply cleaning wax on the brush during this step. After cleaning the die, we now have to check if the extruder screw rotates along the proper direction. To do this step, we have to start the extruder motor drives by tapping on the blue motor symbol, which will flash as shown here. Then we set a low RPM value by selecting the RPM set point box and inputting a value of as low as 10 RPM. Now we can check the direction of the screw by looking down the hopper feeder. The correct screw rotation should be in the counterclockwise direction as shown in the video. In this step, we will now load the extruders with resins and check if the die's condition is ready for running. We can do this right away by purging some material out of the die while using low extrusion RPMs. For now, make sure that the extruders are not running at the moment. Here, we are now loading extruder A and extruder C with LDPE resins for the exterior layers of the ABA cast film. For extruder B, we will load PP resins as the middle layer of our ABA cast film. In the control panel, we will now start all the extruder motor drives by tapping on the blue motor icons as shown in the video. Then we set a low RPM value. For this inspection process, 20 RPM is enough. Now we have to wait for the material to come out of the die. Make sure to wear heat-resistant gloves in this process and be careful of the die's very hot surface. Once the melt starts to come out, slowly pull it out of the die. Hold the melt and spread it into a film web as shown in the video. To check if the die is in a proper condition, you have to visually check the quality of the film web. Note at how clean the film web looks and observe for any signs of degradation or discoloration. If there are obvious lines or streaks along the film web, then further cleaning of the die is required. On the contrary, if the web coming out looks smooth and clean, then the die is already in proper condition for running. After checking the die's performance, we can now set up the roll stack with the flat die. But first, we have to stop all the extruders in the control panel. And then, we'll have to clean the die once again before moving in the roll stack and the wind-up conveyor. After a quick cleaning of the die, you can now move the roll stack in place. Move the conveyor towards the die as much as it is allowed along its rails. Then, lock the assembly in place by turning the rail clamps at the bottom in a clockwise direction. In the control panel, tap on the roll stack icon to allow rotation of the 3 rolls. Then, you have to set its speed. In general, a speed of 2 meters per minute is good in this stage where we are about to guide a film web along the line. Next, we also have to start the nip rolls and the wind-up. To do this, tap on the nip roll icon as shown here. Then, we will set a slightly higher speed setting than nip rolls as shown here. This is for generating and maintaining the web's tension during the initial wind-up of the film. As you can see here, the roll stack is now running with the speed we had set. The nip rolls are also running, as well as the wind-up. Note that the nip roll and wind-up always run at the same speed. Next, you have to open the gap between the upper and middle roll stacks by turning both adjustment knobs counterclockwise as shown in the video. Open the gap to allow space for guiding the film web. Now, it's finally time to start the initial extrusion process and guiding the film web along the roll stack, conveyor, and finally, winding the film onto the bobbin. In the control panel, start up the extruder drives and set a low RPM or at around 20 RPM. Wait for the film web to come out of the die. You can use the scraper to help pull the web towards the roll stack. Then, using your hands, guide the film web around the middle roll, then around the bottom roll of the stack. When that's done, then hold and pull the web and thread it along the conveyor guide rolls towards the nip rolls. Open the nip rolls by lifting the lever upwards, and then guide the web between the rolls. Finally, guide the end of the web along the bobbin at the wind-up station. At this point, you can let the film web drag along until a stable film width reaches the wind-up station. Cut off the bad part of the film web, and then guide the incoming film along the bobbin until the film gets winded onto itself as shown in the video. Now you can finally set the working speeds for the extruders. For extruder B with PP resins, we'll set a working speed of around 80 RPM. For extruders A and C with LDPE resins, we'll set a working speed of around 50 RPM. Now, you can finally start optimizing the line's parameter settings to your desired working temperatures, extruder output ratios, and your desired line speed. Here in the demo, we have already set the line with parameter values suitable for working with LDPE and PP polymers in ABA multi-layer film configuration, and as of this moment, the line's output and quality is in a stable state. Now, if you want to adjust the thickness of each individual layer, you can increase or decrease the extruder output for that layer. Simply decrease the extruder RPM if you want a thin layer, or increase the extruder RPM for a thick layer. Here we had set all the extruders to 80 RPM. We had also set the extruder temperatures suitable for LDPE and PP. For extruder B, which runs with PP, we have set 220 degrees Celsius. While for extruders A and C, we have set a value of 180 degrees Celsius for running with LDPE materials. For the line speed, we have also set the roll stack speed at 1 meter per minute, and the nip rolls to 1.1 meter per minute for good tensioning of the film. For the flat die, we have set a value of 215 degrees Celsius, while for the feed block, we have set a value of 220 degrees Celsius. Now all of these values are found to be generally suitable for running with these materials. And here, we can now see the film web and its stable output and quality with our settings. In this next step, we'll now show how to quickly change the bobbin in the wind-up station. Now there is no need to stop the nip rolls and wind-up. To unload the bobbin in the wind-up station, first cut the film, and then slide outwards the pin to loose the winder shock and remove the film roll as shown in the video. Insert the new empty bobbin and release the pin to lock it in place. Now you can finally wind up the film once again. Cut off the incoming film if its length became too long for winding. This is done so you can wind up with good film tension as shown in the video. Here we'll now show the standard procedures for shutting down the entire line. First, we have to stop all the extruder drives. And then we have to stop the roll stack and the nip roll drives as well. Once that's done, you can now move the roll stack away from the flat die. While still in the working temperature, you'll have to remove the material hanging from the die, and afterwards, you'll have to clean the die as well. But once again, make sure to wear heat-resistant safety gloves before doing this process. Once the die is clean, you can now turn off heating in the control panel. Tap on the heating icon as well as the water pump icon. Now we can press the power off button at this point. And finally, turn the main isolator switch to the off position for a complete shutdown of the line.